Dungeons & Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game wherein a group of friends sitting around a table will cooperatively tell a narrative story together. They do this by playing characters inside of that story, telling things from the perspective of that character, thinking what they would be thinking, talking as they would talk. And collectively, they make decisions that affect the plot. Of course, these players by themselves are not enough to do a full narrative, so it's one person's job to not be a character, but instead play all of the side characters, have a general plot outline for events that will happen whether or not the players do things, and manage all of the rules. That person is the Dungeon Master. Hi, I'm Austin Coons. I'm the Dungeon Master.
My name is Dylan Dalton. I play Fen the Rogue and Jed the Paladin. Fen was a changeling rogue with a high charisma stat who did most of the negotiating and talking for the party, who pushed along the plot early on in the game when politics were important. I played Jedediah the Paladin, who was originally from a rural fishing village, then came into the party on his god's orders, and later became the most busted character you'd ever meet.
I'm David Pierce. I played Hornlier the Druid. He functioned as a tank early on, just soaking up a whole bunch of damage so the rest of the party could do damage to the enemy, and later on became one of the primary casters, so I was able to contribute by doing a lot of damage myself in very specific situations.
My name is Tim Wilson. I play Cypress, the Warlock. I mostly deal very large amounts of damage using different types of spells and try and do as much damage as possible to help my team.
I'm Ethan Hunter. I played Droud the Ranger, and my job as the Ranger was to make getting from point A to point B a little faster. I was a Beastmaster Ranger, which means I had an animal companion, which had zero use in combat or in anything. About halfway through the game, out of pity, I was allowed to have a dragon instead, which was 8 times better. Just amazing. But me as a character, Drow, still just as terrible. I just had a dragon, which made me look cooler than I actually was.
Hi, my name is Jacob Wolf. I played Bronte the Fighter, and my main job was to smack things with an axe.
Hi, my name is Sam Coons, and I played Rook the Barbarian. My main job was being the heart and soul of the group, but mechanically I was the tank.
I cannot emphasize enough how much this is a cooperative storytelling game. As the DM, I have a narrative structure in mind and a plot that I want to push the players towards, but it's on them to actually do things. Whether or not what character dies randomly or they find a wish ring, nothing is set in stone.
Coming from high school, I mean, I had some odd, 6 friends I hung out with, played online a lot in high school, and when I came to college, about 2 of them went to the same college as me, and 0 of them kept in contact with me. So I had just about nobody for the first month of college, until I started going to Game Club and I met these fantastic people to which I now play D&D with.
Coming out of high school, I thought it was very important to establish a social group in college, so I had a very fortunate stance where I had my brother here, I had lots of friends from my high school here, and I went to Game Club with that same mindset of, I'm just going to expand my social group.
My roommate Tim actually brought me along to the board game club back in the day.
Oh yeah, I dragged Dylan to Game Club.
So me and him joined a game that really fell through. We didn't meet very often, it just wasn't a good time. So because of that, me and Tim were looking for an actual real game of D&D to get into that would be really fun.
So when I saw these guys, I thought, they seem like a bunch of people that I would like to play some D&D with. I had just gotten out of a game that ended on a bad note for me, and I was itching to play some D&D. So I had been talking with my brother about a campaign idea where he was saying, oh, it's going to be super dark, it's going to be gritty, it's going to be a little bit more challenging than the normal stance of D&D. So I was super hyped already thinking about this. And so when I was talking with these guys about, hey, have you ever played D&D before? And some of them were like, no, I haven't. Or some of them were saying, yeah, they're pretty experienced players. I just kind of got super ready for it, and I immediately pitched the idea to them.
I mean, D&D has brought me incredibly close to these people. I mean, at first, during the first session, a few of us were pretty, standoffish, me being the most standoffish. But over time, I've gotten incredibly close with these people. They're some of my best friends, and I'm even going to be living with some of them next year. And it's just a great thing.
All of the other groups that I've been a member of were mostly introverts and fairly quiet people, but this group had a lot of a pretty good balance mix of extroverts and introverts, and it was kind of weird getting used to that at first, but It was really fun getting to play with a whole bunch of different personality types.
With this really diverse group, it's really easy for people to interact, and the people who aren't so comfortable with talking can then spend some time not talking while the charismatic people take over. But it's nice to have that difference, because then we get everyone's opinion, we get new ideas in for how to solve problems, and we have someone to do everything that we need.
So, Rook was super roleplay heavy. I did it as a way to get other players more comfortable and like kind of crawl out of their shells a bit. So, I had this Rook voice where I talk like this the entire time, and I kept it really deep, and I had him play out like perfectly as himself. And it was just a way of like audibly expressing that I'm into this, and I think you guys are going to be more comfortable with it as the time goes on, and they totally came out of their shells late in the game.
Yeah, playing role-playing games kind of lets you see a different side of people. They become more expressive and show different sides of themselves than they normally would. So, like, I was kind of a little bit more quiet just because it was a larger group, but other players like Dylan became, like, sneaky and more kind of deceptive, not because they themselves are, but because that was what their character was like.
Yeah, the players got a lot more comfortable as the game went on, thanks to the efforts of people like Sam and Dylan being super roleplay into their characters, and it really improved the dynamic of the game. I can say with confidence that heavy roleplay characters are one of the best features of Dungeons & Dragons.
As a first-time D&D player, I made the mistake of making my character very antisocial and very loner-esque, which wasn't great because it didn't involve a lot of talking with the group. And I had done it on purpose because I didn't know any of these people quite well yet. I was new to these people and new to D&D, so I made a character that could get along by saying nothing and doing nothing. It was a terrible mistake, and I would not like to make that one again ever.
Yeah, so Cypress started off as a really edgy character, and I really hated it because you should never play an edgy character. It's awful. Makes everybody at the table sad. So I tried to go with more of like a backstory-driven type character, and, you know, forging relationships with different characters in the party, and just trying to, as the game went on and more things with my backstory started coming up, just trying to tone it down a little bit.
I mean, yeah, one of the best things about D&D is the interaction with the NPCs and with other players while in character, and I had just set myself up to not be able to do that ever. Luckily for me, somehow fate got erased and we all got rewritten as new people, and my new character was much more fun to just talk with and be around. It involved an accent. I'm not going to repeat it for my own dignity. And it was just light years better, and I should have done it from the start.
I actually really enjoyed Cypress as a character. Sure, he was a little edgy, but he was also very traumatized. He had a lot of moments in his backstory that I could pull echoes of into the campaign so that the rest of the players would have a big dramatic moment. One of the best ones was bringing him into the former lair that he was turned into a warlock in, where he bound with his demon patron, and it was really traumatic for him. And I got to have this big dramatic moment with all of my players while they saw this evil black sarcophagus that he found so many years earlier, and it was really good as a moment. As for the Lone Wolf character, there's nothing redeeming about it. Don't play a Lone Wolf.
D&D is a wonderful outlet of creativity, as it allows me to step out of my own head into someone else's, and allows me to think of situations differently and approach them from different ways that I wouldn't normally think of in, everyday situations.
I think it's definitely easier to bond with people in a roleplay setting just because there's kind of like a degree of separation between you and your character, so you can be a lot more expressive in what you're doing and saying in a way that you can't interact with people normally. So that's a really valuable opportunity for people who aren't very comfortable being themselves.
I highly recommend you go out and play D&D. Get together with some friends, start a campaign. It doesn't even have to be a campaign. It can be a one-shot. Just get out there and do it. It'll be a great bonding experience. You can get closer to your existing friends, maybe make some new friends. And if you don't believe me, just look what it did for us.